Hello, my name is David, and my topic is Pan-Africanism and the Black Power movement as related to the play A Raisin in the Sun. First, we need to look at what Pan-Africanism and the Black Power movement are before we can understand their significance in the play. First, both Pan-Africanism and Black Power are two different but similar ideals. Pan-Africanism states that blacks cannot prosper alongside whites and advocates that they should return back to their roots in Africa with the intent to start a new and separate nation. It also looked to extinguished colonialism which was present at the time in Africa. This view was predominant in the 1920s and 40s and started after World War I. However, this view fizzled out in the United States, as many of its supporters were sympathetic with communism, and there were events that took place shortly after called the Red Scare, which led later on to the Cold War. Secondly, Black Power. It occurred afterwards in 1968 to 1980. It rejected much of the nonviolent methods predominantly adopted by Martin Luther King. However, they did support the work of Pan-Africanists and some of their countries that they created in Africa, such as Uganda. They also held to many communist ideals. An example is they supported Fidel Castro with Cuba. They did, however, differing. They advocated the use of violence for black justice. The embodiment of this ideal was the Black Panther Party. The times of these views is also important, as Pan-Africanism was prior to when the play takes place, and the Black Power movement is after the play. However, throughout the play, we can see evidence of both of these ideals, as the Pan-Africanism was the forerunner to the Black Power movement, and Black Power being Pan-Africanism's successor. Now, throughout the play, we can find scattered through it hints of Pan-Africanism and even of the Black Power movement. Most of the manifestations of these ideals, primarily Pan-Africanism, comes from the interactions between Bernice and Joseph Assegai. Early on, we can see that Benny is looking for her identity, and she is trying to seek it in Africa, and she seeks out Joseph Assegai as a key to finding her identity. This coincides with the values of Pan-Africanism, of going back to their home in Africa, as that is where they feel they belong. Assegai also, at one point, accuses Benny of being an assimilationist. And this is counter to Pan-Africanism, which it is clear that Joseph Assegai holds this value. Further evidence that Assegai is a Pan-Africanist is his anti-colonial views that he has. And we discover this through Benny mentioning it to her mother about the foreigners taking their land. Another incident that takes place shows that this view has permeated throughout the whole family. Example is when the mama goes and buys the house in Claiborne Park. Once she tells the family that the house is in that neighborhood, the family's reaction to it being in a non-black neighborhood, they express great concern. This coincides with the Pan-Africanist view that blacks are unable to be prosperous in the presence of whites, and the further seeking of the family requesting that the house had been in the black neighborhood further supports this. And finally, the pinnacle of the Pan-Africanism is when Assegai invites Benny to come home with him, and home being to Africa. He emphasizes that it's the home across the ocean, not the home across the city. This is a homecoming that he presents to her, this being the pinnacle of Pan-Africanism. There is some evidence of black power being present in the play. However, it is not as a major force as Pan-Africanism is, as the black power develops later on in history. And what we see are only the early foundations of black power, some of the non-violent foundations, as the non-violent civil rights movement takes place before the black power movement. The main ideal behind black power is the black individuals' fight for their rights. And we see this twice when Walter stands against the homeowner association. Twice. First, rejecting the offer to buy the property, and then later on he makes his grand speech about how they will move into the residence. In his speech, though, he does mention he is not looking to fight any cause, but he will move in. Now, the very act of him moving into the property is revolutionary, as he is standing up for their rights to live in that residence. Mr. Linder, the representative, hints at this when he says in his departure of the apartment, "I sure hope you people know what you are getting into." The remnants of Pan-Africanism and the flickers of black power are only some of the few driving forces that motivate the characters throughout the story. They are, however, still significant, as they have helped form our nation and drive change in civil rights. Thank you for listening to my brief presentation, and included is my slides and my works cited. Thank you.